We're here in Tampa visiting Brenda Wade, who has one of the top producing teams in all of Florida. Brenda, thank you for doing this.
I'm honored to do it. I'm very intimidated to be sitting in the room with you, Patrick.
Well, that's absolutely ridiculous. We had dinner last night. There's nothing to be intimidated about. It fascinates me that you had a fear of doing this because you're so successful. Over the last 10 years, you've sold over 100 million every year, with most years being around 175 million. Why would you be intimidated by this?
I just see you as such a ambassador for the business, and you're Manhattan. Are you kidding? I'm here in suburban Florida, and
You're churning the work. I mean, you guys are doing like 400 plus deals a year.
we are now the market has changed, but our average is probably about 350.
That's a lot of property to sell, and your team's not that large.
It's not at all. It's all excellent, though.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I think I have the best team. Whether it's staff or agents, I have great people.
Well, I will agree with you on that. We're going to talk about that later. Right now, let's talk about how did we meet?
Rev, you had your conference, and I was so excited. I had tried to go. Leslie McDonald, my good friend, had tried to get me a seat at the table, but I think you were full. And then Alice,
I think I said no.
You said no. I didn't make the cut. And then Alice Held got sick, and you let me have her spot. So I went with Terry Eisner.
And the reason we're bringing this up is you were probably doing around 65 million then, which was great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, 65
I was very
million,
proud of it.
But finding your tribe, which is what Rev and Star Power did for you,
Yes.
allowed you to really grow your business. So people come up to me all the time and they say, how can I grow my business? How can I grow my business? And I feel like you and I've had a similar path in that I can remember this was early on in my career, like late 90s, I was stuck at 25 million and I couldn't get beyond 25 million. And I went to a Coldwell Banker conference. Susan File was on the panel. She got up to speak. I totally connected with her. And I went up to her afterwards and I said, what do I need to do to go to the next step? She says, you need to go see Dr. Fred. Just like you were told by Leslie, you need to go to Rev, or you need to go to Star Power, whatever your connecting family would be. So let's talk about that. How did you make the connection with Leslie? And then how did going to Rev and Star Power actually grow your business?
I had an ability to attract the business, but then you get to a point where you're doing all you can do. And
you don't know what you don't know.
And you don't know how to get it from there because you want to keep that excellence that has gotten you here. So like my first 4 years in the business, I did about 100 million collectively. And so that fourth year I was at about 40 million and on my own. And I was like, I don't really know how to get over this next hurdle. I had 4 admin that were helping me, but I was exhausted. And the primary focus of my life has always been family and wanting to do that part really, really well because that's where your real legacy is. And so I went to Listing University back in Star Power.
For Star Power.
This was in 2006. And man, it was mind-blowing. Like, here's how you do it, step by step by step. They've got it laid out, right?
And Leslie was on that instructor panel.
No,
that was later on.
No,
Okay.
that was later on. Demetria Chadbourne, the Crockett's, Les Walden. There were amazing
Heavy
people
hitters.
there. Yeah, and just pouring it out, And so I came home and signed up for all the other things that Star Power had offered, and I'm thankful that I did because it was towards the end of what they were offering. But I went to Leadership University in Kansas City, and I mean, heavy hitters were at the table. It was Chip Collins, it was Martin
Balma.
and Orly, and then all of a sudden I see Leslie. Well, I had stalked Leslie because she had been featured very prominently on Star Power, and I was addicted to the tapes and did all the things. And I went up to her and said, Leslie, you're Leslie McDonald. And she said, yes. And I said, what are you doing here? I mean, you could write the book, right? And here she was learning, right? And so I said, I'm your stage 5 stalker. I know everything about you. I could take you to school on your website. I mean, I know everything. I love what you do. And she goes, then you got to go to dinner with me. So I went to dinner that night. Orly and her whole tribe was there. And she allowed me to go to Chicago and shadow her, and she just is a giver. I mean, truly a giver. And she gave me all of her stuff and just invested in me. And for, from then till now, she'll stay in touch. How you doing? What do you need? And anything she has is just open to me. And if she knows of something good coming, she'll say, this is what you need to do. So when Rev came, she goes, you need to go to Rev. And she reached out and we were like, no.
Well,
No.
it means even more that you actually got it after you got a no. So what would be your recommendation to an agent who is looking to grow their business?
That, going away, getting out of your market, go find people that are doing what you want to be doing. Leslie at that point was doing 100 million. And by herself. And she had just started a team and was moving on, but I was, down here at 40 million and she was at 100 million. And she reached back, brought me to the table and introduced me to other people that were excellent. Again, not in my market. Orly's in New Jersey. So it's an opportunity to grow, but you have to look out and look for new ways and new people.
Yeah, it's for me it was Susan File. For you it was Leslie McDonald. There are plenty of people. If you reach out to them, you'll know immediately if they're a giver or not. And then you surround yourself with people who are givers, like you are yourself. So it's a good combination. We got here early this morning to set up for the shoot, and I've had time to meet with your buyer's agents and your listing agents, and then with your admin. And it's fascinating. Both sides, both the selling side and the admin side, your team are really strong. Most of them have been with you for decades, decades. Let's talk about how you hire. First of all, how many people are on your team?
I have 6 buyer's agents. My son-in-law, and me are the listing side. And then I have 5 full-time staff in the office that take care of everything from day to day.
It's interesting that the way you have hired people, it's not typical of the industry. Why don't you talk to us about that?
I'm not a recruiter, and I don't want a huge team, and that's where I struggle because I follow a lot of people and try to improve, and a lot of them have 25 buyer's agents. I'm not really a manager. I really like selling, so don't want that to be my total focus. And so I've hired some friends, and I did train them. So I've had a couple that I did take from the ground up because I knew them very well and knew that they were very suited for the business. But as a rule, I take experience, people that have already started in the process, a couple years at least, and that I can see the results of their work, because my fear is getting somebody that doesn't align with my values. When I go out and somebody might say to me, hey, Brenda, I'm working with Susan on your team. I want to be able to go, she's amazing, right? She's terrific. I require excellence from that position, because if you buy well, you sell well, right? And so it's so important what they do for my customer and the advice that they give. So I put a lot of stock in their skills before I'll bring them on, and I have to know them.
And they seem to come from specific areas, and you're like, they're either church friends or they're personal friends or you've sold them a property in the past.
I have. I've got two people that I had sold the property, and one that was just I knew her from church and my neighborhood, and we had been friends 30 years. And another one that was my neighbor, and she had invested a lot of time and energy in my family, and so yeah, she's on the team, and then a couple that are just good co-ops, and I was able to bring them to the team because I knew that I really liked the way they work.
Well, you can tell that there is a good cultural fit in that everybody's been here for so long.
And they're good culturally a team. When agents do leave me, they really hate leaving the cohesiveness of that small unit. They really have a give and a go with each other. They take care of each other, and I think it makes it more difficult to leave us because they are such a strong circle.
So let's get into the meat of the matter. What do you think you do really, really well?
Sell real estate.
Well, what about selling real estate? That's a lot of things.
I really care about my customer. I really do begin with them in mind. Everything I do is I want you to buy well. I want you to sell well. I want to take care of you. I think Austin had told you last night I'm very bossy, and it's because I want to bring you in and take care of you and make sure it's right. And when you do that, they sense that, and they'll send you more. You know, if you're a dad and you have this person that's taking great care of you, you're going to send me your daughter. You're going to send me your son. You're going to send me your mom. And because you have this sense that I am going to take care of you. I had a customer recently, very successful gentleman, and I had done several transactions with him, and he said, "In Brenda, we trust." And because he knows I'm going to give you a straight answer, and I'm going to tell you how it is, and but it all comes back to my philosophy is take care of the customer, and the customer will take care of you.
Yes. And other things that's pretty clear from me talking with your staff and your son is that you probably know every single house out there. You've probably been in every house.
A lot of them.
You've sold more houses here than anybody else in the area, and we're in a suburb of Tampa. You still go out on tours of new properties because you want to know everything that's out there about what you're selling.
I know the market very well, and that's what sets me apart to begin with, is that I'm very knowledgeable about real estate. I actually got my license in Texas, and Texas has a higher standard for education to begin with, which I'm so grateful for in hindsight because I knew a lot. And then knowing my inventory, every day I'm looking at what's new on the market, what's selling. You know, just knowing the inventory. It's very important to me.
It's interesting because every single person I've interviewed on this series knows their inventory inside out, which, you know, makes me wonder, am I knowing my inventory enough? It makes me question that would be room for my improvement. The other thing that your staff told me is that this is your life. This is what brings you the most passion.
I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about the people that work here. I mean, I truly love the people that are on my team. And I work on my family, and that is my greatest passion in this life, right? And the people I come in contact with, I know them so well. I have someone right now that is a long-term customer. I've sold them a lot of properties, and they're texting me about a family crisis going on. I'll be involved in it down the line, but because they know I care. They know I care about their mom, and I've sold her multiple houses. It's my life. You know, it's become my life, and I enjoy it. And because I have a good staff, I can step away from it when I need to. I can go on vacation. I can take a day off and know without a doubt they're going to take care of it. I'm not leaving anybody in a lurch. But I really like it. I feel very fortunate for that.
We did your MBTI, which was ESTJ, And ESTJ is also the personality type of Chip Collins, whose episode has already aired. And what you both have in common is that you're really good leaders who sees a direction you want to take your family-based organization towards, and you're very driven to making that happen. And you're bossy, both of you are bossy, but in a very polite, um, unobtrusive way. It's not offensive, as some people, some New Yorkers' bossiness can be really offensive. Yours is not at all. It's really very pleasant because I feel like you're really thinking, caring about the individuals and moving your organization forward. And you're both really great at that. You both are really hard workers. It's also interesting. I don't know about Chip's weak points as much, but one of your, I don't think bossy is a weak point. I think it's a positive thing. One of the things is you're resistant to change. And from talking to your staff, I can see some of the ways that that happens. One would be you still have your picture outside from a long time ago. You like that picture and you don't want to change it. You're happy with it. And also you get a little, your staff was telling me you get a little involved in the minutia of the business as opposed to being rainmaker and doing that. And that's just because you're used to, that's the way you've done it all the time.
I'm interested that they tell you I stay in the minutia because I stay on top of it, but I think I leverage really well. I think I'm great about saying, here's your job, go do it, but I hold them accountable. And but I am so resistant to change because I've been successful.
Right, and it's worked. Why
And
change
it's
something that's
worked, and it's scary to go, and it's like, oh gosh, how do you change this and not have that? It's kind of like Coke and New Coke, you know. It was supposed to work, and they had all the money to research it, and ooh, it's a flop, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where the change is hard because you know when you're on a train and it's a really good train,
Yeah.
it's hard to change, but it's definitely difficult.
I would recommend as a coach, you have a conversation with your team about where they think you're holding on to minutia versus what your perceptions are, and then see if there's any room for growth there.
Yeah, that's good feedback. I like that.
Let's talk about the most important thing to any real estate broker is lead generation. How do you generate leads?
By being remarkable. I think that's what brings you in your repeat and your referrals, right? Is to get them what they want.
How are you remarkable?
I'm good at getting top dollar, you know, and understanding. And
Your staff was telling me you're a great negotiator.
I think we do well at that, and
What
we do it
makes
as a
for a
team.
great negotiator?
Somebody who wins. No, it's
It's knowing your numbers.
knowing, having the information, and you're educating the other agent to why you're where you are. Because a lot of times they don't know when I'm negotiating the process. They kind of have some information, but as you've said, I've been in all the houses. I know what this compares to. I know why it doesn't compare to something else. So it really comes back to having a wealth of knowledge that I can communicate to the other agents so that they can communicate it to their buyer, what makes this worth where we are. Because a lot of times they don't know. And doing it so that you're not making them feel less because they don't have that information. Maybe they're from Pinellas County. Maybe, you know, they're new, whatever it is, or this just isn't their market. You know, being sure that we are giving them the tools for them to help you get to the finish line.
Have you ever taken any classes in negotiation?
Not other than just going to conferences.
Right,
And, you know,
and what
going,
they talk about in conferences.
Right.
Interesting. You know, I took I went to Harvard and took their negotiation certification. I didn't learn anything.
You didn't?
But
I've wondered if it was worthwhile.
it wasn't. But I got a couple things out of it. But it was good to put on the resume and when I'm listing a property, you know, I'm a great negotiator, blah, blah, blah. So what other lead generation do you do, Brenda?
We have through the years, historically done a lot of print media, which a lot of people will tell you that was dead. But you find that people like me, who grew up in a family that every day read the newspaper, you had your breakfast, reading the paper or whatever. I found that the people that actually had money were really using print media. Here, we are a snowbird market, if you will. People that live here, their parents will come down and spend 2 weeks to 3 months in the wintertime. And my phone would ring with mom and dad. I could tell with talking to them that they were very interested in this property. And I would think, you're going to buy it? And he goes, it's for my daughter. I'll call you back. And they hang up. And it's mom and dad that are going to move their kids up to a bigger house so they have a better place to snowbird. And it was print media that is driving
and are you still
that
doing
market.
that?
Well, the print media has gone away
Okay.
for so much of it. We still do some in very small local publications. So as that's transitioned out, we've had to do more social media, more direct mail, more neighborhood publications. And then, of course, we're boosting it on a social media basis and continuing always luxury magazines, because you think people don't look, and we always say there are passive buyers in our market that they pick something up and then all of a sudden your phone's ringing.
Yeah, a luxury buyer doesn't have to buy, whereas a regular buyer, they're buying because they usually have to buy.
And we call them a passive buyer. They don't have an agent. They're not out looking, but they're always looking. Their eyes are always scanning the horizon. And if they saw the property they wanted, they could absolutely buy it.
So you talked about direct mail, you talked about some luxury magazines, social media. Do you have any idea what's the most effective rate of return?
It's hard, even with print media, to get your quote rate of return, because when you look at it, I've been the dominant player in this market almost from the beginning. And I did print media almost from the beginning and continued to boost that, but it doesn't always come back quantitatively. And now, used to, signs were such a big draw, right? And I still get sign calls because I do dominate my market. But a lot of times those signs are going to the internet now, and that call that used to come direct to me is now coming through Zillow, right? Or it's coming through one of the other portals. And so it has muddied your water,
Right.
In so many ways, because something that you had that might have been print drove them to it. Then they went online while they were there to get more information. Well, how big is this lot? So much information is there. So it comes in a circle, but it doesn't mean that marketing is not still effective. And I'm still the top agent in this county. No one sells more property in Hillsborough County than I do. And so it's hard to put a quantity on exactly what's driving that, right?
Sure, that makes sense. And so on your direct mail, are you doing just listed and just solds, or are you doing other direct mail?
We do more when we get started on it, and we're working on a campaign right now that will include more just listed and just sold, because you can't use it in print like we could previously. But we would say, like, in this neighborhood, I've sold all of these houses, and we'll do a map. It's pretty impressive if you can see how many houses I've sold in any given neighborhood, because I'm very deep in a smaller market. And so it'll make you think, I should call her. She does know. And if I can get my opportunity time through that call, which is really what I'm wanting, I'll more than likely get the listing.
How much are you spending any amount of your day making warm or cold calls?
I'm on the phone a portion of the day, just, working through the things that I need to do. I call it your hour of power. I'm not as good about just sitting down and making them. I'm looking at who I need to call today. So in between appointments, I'll call, hey, it's Brenda. I had the open house this weekend, went really good. Doing those touch calls. I don't really prospect, because one of my team members after we go out, she immediately follows up and starts calling, and she'll come to me and say, you need to follow up with them. I'm not reaching them or whatever. But we have someone else that is doing that, so I don't have to.
That's if you don't want to do something, delegate it to somebody who does it well, and then let them come back to you and say what you need to do.
Well, the problem is with all of those type of calls, it's consistency, right? You can't say, well, I need to follow up in 2 days, but in 2 days I'm swamped. I'm busy that day, so I can't do it. So everything that I pretty much do is delegated so that somebody is doing it on that day consistently, because my schedule is so in flux. Like if I get, a multitude of offers, I'm busy working those offers, right? So I'm not maybe following up on the listings I went out to last week. So we have everything automated through the office to follow up on that so that I don't have to.
So if you were going to recommend to an agent who wanted to grow their business, tell us 3 things you'd have them do.
Well, the first thing, depending on where they were, you have to have support. You have to have someone to take the things off your plate that you don't want to do or you don't do well. And, for me, I told someone the other day, I know exactly what Canva is and I know what it's great for. Do I ever use Canva? No. I use very little tools because I hire people to use those tools. My highest and best use is talking to the customer, knowing my market, doing the things that are going to benefit me and benefit my customer. The other things, those detail things, can be handled by staff. So first thing is I would have a staff.
Even if it's a part-time staff, if that's what you can afford, maybe they're working 20 hours a week.
The first year when I told you I had no business cards, as soon as I had a listing, I found a graphic designer to do flyers because I'm not going to do that, and then found a photographer to take my pictures because I'm not going to do that.
And proving that she's resistant to change, that $45 that she spent on branding, how many years ago?
Oh, 20
20
plus.
years ago. She's using the same branding still.
Yeah, I'm still using it because
It works.
It works. And how many people have we seen go through 10 things?
Yeah.
They see something new they like, they change their colors. They see, I think I'll be those colors. And just consistency, because you think your customer cares. Your customer just wants to know that you are a professional in what you're doing.
And think about how much money you save by not having new photographs.
Every time. I have new photographs and I have them on other places on my website, so you won't be shocked that she's not 40 walking in the door. And I have other ones, but it's just, how do you change when you've spent so much money on that? And do companies change year in and year out? Laurie Reeder, very successful agent over on the other coast, she said, did the Colonel change his picture?
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the classic examples of this is we all call CRS, and they changed their name to RCC, and big mistake. They should have just kept it as CRS, because we all still call it that. All right. So you gave one thing for an agent who wants to grow their business is to hire an assistant. What's the second thing?
Be aware of what your capabilities is. For me, when I joined, when I started selling, I had Allie at home, and she was 10, I think,
Your
at that
daughter,
point.
right.
My daughter, she was 10. And I had to still run carpool and do everything else. So I put very much boundaries around what I was going to do, and I went very deep in that area. And that was very successful. I didn't chase all over the country. And here's the secret. If I'm doing all of my business in a very small geographic area, what you focus on expands.
It's time effective.
It's time expected. And when they come to list, if I sell a buyer in my territory, they're going to use me again. If I sell one out in Timbuktu, which we have a much broader territory now, because I have all the agents that help direct that, they're not as likely to come back as that person that's getting my marketing day in, day out, seeing me. You're going by, you're seeing my sign, that's Brenda. I'm going to Brenda. I know she's my girl. So by starting small and then letting the circle get bigger, as opposed to just going in wild abandon, I was more knowledgeable on my market. When you would call me, you could tell I knew what I'm talking about. On the phone, when you're telling me what you want, I could get you that. So it just helps in every avenue to Focus tight
Define your farm and stick to it tightly at the beginning.
in the beginning because you learn so much more. You're known, they're known. So I would say, don't be a scatterbrain going everywhere chasing bunnies, because so many people do, right?
And in a city, that may be one building or one block or one neighborhood, and here it could be like a 10-mile radius or a 5-mile radius. Third thing you'd recommend to a new age, or not a new agent, somebody who's already existing that really wants to grow their business.
Really wants to grow their business. I said get the admin, and then make sure that you have leads. I always say to my agents, be in abundance. Don't think you're going to get buyer's agents to come in and then you don't have anything to offer them. I've always had leads to give, because I have you have listings which generate leads, and then you have other lead generations. But in order to get a team to stay with you, you have to give them something.
And how are you giving your team leads?
Well, I have listings, I have repeat and referral, and then I buy leads, and I've done it a variety of ways through the years. I did pay-per-click advertising. I've done Zillow. Zillow was a great deal 4 or 5 years back. You could really maximize your returns on it. They are very smart people, and they know how to strangle it. So they've strangled it to where it's not dollar productive at this point. So we've shrunk what we're putting into them, because the return has got to make sense for everybody.
Right.
But when you bring on a buyer's agent, your responsibility is to provide for them.
So what sources are still working for you that you have to pay for?
I'm still using Zillow, but I'm very specific on what
About
I'll do,
which?
and I analyze my zip codes. How much did I make from this? And you have to inspect what you expect, and so I'm always tracking it to see, am I getting any leads, and what are the quality of these leads? Because I want it to be a higher average sales price. For doing the number of units that we do, we have a decent average sales price, and and I always am evaluating the leads when they come in as to who's the best agent to take them. I'm not just saying, on a round robin, you're going to get it. Because I hear what you're saying, I know this person will do a great job with you. I'm a matchmaker, if you will, giving them that. I'm not hands off. I'm very hands on to try to make sure that the buyer's agent is getting a good experience and getting an opportunity, and that the customer is getting a good opportunity, because we want to be exceptional to that customer. And the way to do that is to make them have the best experience by giving them the best fit, the best agent that fits them.
One of the reasons I wanted to interview you, outside the fact that you're a great real estate broker, is that you run a family-run real estate business. And that does happen a lot in our business, but you do it extremely well. So, for example, in your family, there's Ronnie, who what was his position at Coca-Cola?
He was director of operations for Coca-Cola.
And so he's doing a lot of the back end work for you now. He's retired from Coca-Cola?
Yes.
You have your son, Austin, who we're going to be talking to shortly, who is your listing manager.
Well, no, he's a listing partner.
Listing partner, okay. Yeah. And then you have Allie, who has a couple of kids and a third one coming along the way, and she does part-time marketing for you. And then you have Allie's husband, DeMarco, who's both doing listings and buyers.
He's hybrid. He's my only hybrid on the team.
And talk to me about why you decided to go in this direction.
I needed help from the listing side. And my belief, and to be able to continue to grow your business, not lose ground, is to have it be family. That was my thoughts. And so I approached him, and
that was because of the name Wade, or why?
Because I think agents have a tendency to leave. We all do. I mean, how many agents this year they're gone to that one, next year they're going to another one. They're not settled people as a rule. I am. I don't go for change. And And so I felt like to continue to be able to build and not have that person that I've given my farm territory to, and then they leave, and then there's the confusion and the confliction for the person that's left behind. So I knew as family he would be with me forever, and of course he has that trust that this is a benefit for him long term. So he gave it careful thought and consideration and finally decided to come. And for the first year, he just shadowed me. I paid him a salary, and he went, I go to all of my appraisals for my
I
property.
can't even begin to tell you how smart that was that you made him shadow you for a year.
It was, he has my name, and I wanted him to be excellent. He's wicked smart, but he isn't from a sales background. And he's
INTP, which is not the typical real estate broker personality trait.
And so I knew he needed to have that, information and be ready. And people would expect him, because he has that name, to be good, and he needed to be able to back it up. So he did. He shadowed me for a year, and then as luck would have it, my dad got sick. So I had to the cord just dropped where he had to do it. I was gone. I was gone for almost 2 months. And he killed it.
He's landing like 70 listings a year. Isn't that accurate?
70 to 100, depending on how strong we are. He's definitely capable.
How many are you handling a year?
I probably am doing 65 at this point, something like that.
So a lot still.
I'm still doing a lot, but I do them very small. I have a very circle that I've drawn around myself. And it's areas that I know very comfortably. I could do them with my eyes closed, knowing what value would be and what they should do. So, and he does, part of everything outside of that, and DeMarco does the other.
So one of the pluses to running a family-run business is that you said there's more of a stability there. I suspect there's also a higher level of trust there.
So much trust. And knowing that we do the right thing. And his moral compass is very high. And he knows what I would say in every circumstance because he's been with me. He's been here listening to me yap for 11 years, right? Not to mention that I was negotiating a contract when I was in labor with him. So he's been listening to this for most of his life, and he knows what would I say. And that's one of the benefits with working with me and working with us is that most problems aren't new problems, as you know that. Right. And they're repetitive. And so we don't panic. He doesn't panic. We have that, I know what we're going to do here. Here's how we're going to get through that. And, when other agents are blowing it because they're getting so upset, there's a calmness to me because I know this too shall pass. And he knows that as well.
Austin is an INTP, and INTPs love lots and lots of information, which is great for a listing partner because you're going to know all the numbers. You're going to know everything. And in the team meeting today, they asked you, what are the trends going on? And, showings are up this week. That sort of thing. That's your go-to.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I especially early on, when I didn't have the background, I took in every ounce of data I could find. That's where I've always felt like I've been able to set myself apart as I just know more. I just have learned more. I have digested more information and able to go in and tell them, yes, in October you're going to see 20% less sales. It's just going to happen. And I can give them, fire off the information that helps them make a smart decision.
What do you like about working in a family business?
The trust factors that's there.
Yeah.
We're able to come in and, there's no, figuring out, trying to work out if everybody else is working for your best interest or not. We're all working together. We all know we're working for our own best interests. And it's just I've worked on a lot of different teams in the past where you don't know where everybody's really thinking. We kind of always know.
And you also know that the long-term goal is to hand this over to you.
Yeah, it's been very clear since day one that is a long-term goal. There's never been in 5 years I'm out. It's just it's where it's going to go long, and it might be 10 years, might be 20 years. No one really knows or cares, but it's always been where we're headed.
What do you not like about it being a family business?
Any gripes are mostly fairly minor. There's not a lot of things. It can be frustrating when it's all of a sudden Thanksgiving, and we're talking about so and so what they're going to do with their house next week, and I'm like, guys, like we literally just sat down to eat Thanksgiving dinner, and we're talking about a client. Like, let's move on, and we'll be with people who it'd be 5 of us who are in the business and one family member or friend who's
Poor
not.
Allie.
And we're still talking
even
about
though
it.
she does marketing, she's working part-time because she's raising those kids.
Yeah.
I think if I was Allie, I would shoot you guys.
Yeah, and my wife, I think, will sometimes just give me a look like, you need to stop. Like, I'm done with this. And she's also the same thing. She sees someone in the business, helps out, but it's not her all day, every day like it is us. And she'll be like, okay, this is enough. We've talked about enough customers. Let's move on.
Do you have any advice you would give to other families that are considering a family business?
Yeah, it can be really hard. If you're not able to differentiate between this is my boss speaking, this is my mom speaking, or my dad speaking, or my brother speaking, or whoever, it can be really difficult. And I think when my sister first came into the business, it was very difficult because she came right out of college, and they'd butt heads. And if Brenda came to me and says, you're not really dressing in a way that's professional. You need to maybe alter the way you look. I think my boss is telling me I need to step up my game. I can hear that. If you come to me and your mom says to you, I don't like that shirt. Like, no, leave me alone. You're old. It's a very different thing. And you have to be able to differentiate that. And I came from a workplace where I had a lot of bosses. I had really we'd rotate every year, and sometimes in the middle of the year we'd rotate again. So I'd had, in just 5 years, probably 10, 12 bosses. And so I was able to see a lot of different managerial styles and kind of, it was just really easy to slide back in and realize, okay, this is my boss is speaking to me. I can take that criticism. I can do whatever. Whereas I think when you come into a little less experience, it's difficult to take that criticism, not think your mom is getting on to you again if your room's not clean.
I just did an advance for Paula Clark's team, and this issue came up where a lot of the people on her team are her personal friends, and we were able to come to a conclusion that sometimes you have to say, I'm talking to you as your friend right now. I'm talking to you as a competing broker because we both have your client is bidding on my property, or I'm talking to you as your boss. And those are 3 different roles, and sometimes you need to verbalize that if like you're doing in your head automatically. That's
Right.
a good way for smooth communication.
And Brenda, we have a lot of longtime family friends and good friends on the team as well, and that has also come up where it's the same exact thing of, I can't believe you said it to me. We've been friends for 30 years, and I'm not saying it to you we've been friends for 30 years. I'm saying it to you because I'm your boss. And
Right.
it's just it can be hard to sort that out, and for everybody to keep the right headspace. So verbalizing it would be great. It's not something we do well here. We probably should be better. But it can be difficult. And I think we managed it very well. And bringing on my sister along the way, my brother-in-law now, those are all, again, very contentious relationships if you let them be. So trying to manage those relationships while also managing the workplace, it can be tricky. I think we've done a good job of it. So I came from law enforcement, and I felt like I'd gone into it with the intention of doing things that mattered, of helping people, of not just going into office every day and doing paperwork and going home and not changing anything. And that was my concern coming here, was you felt like you wouldn't have a purpose. You wouldn't have that ability to help people. And I realized I help people on a much more consistent basis. When you can help someone get out of a house that they don't know if they can get out of. I mean, that's huge. When you can help them get their first house, when you can help them just be able to take the equity with them to a higher cost of living area they're going to, where they're very concerned to be able to afford there. When you get an extra $20,000, that can increase their, what they can buy there significantly. So yeah, I feel like that I'll be able to bring a purpose with me, and it's been much more enriching than I expected it to be.
Thanks, Austin.
Yeah, thank you.
And now we brought DeMarco in. DeMarco's been with us, 5 or 6 years.
And he has more of a typical real estate personality. He's got a big personality.
He's got a big personality. And he is...
And buyers and sellers love it.
Love him. And as they do Austin as well, but for different reasons.
Right.
DeMarco is engaging right off the bat, and he's a sales guy. He is, I always say to my team, DeMarco's our most classically trained salesperson.
So, DeMarco, your situation here is a little different from Austin's in that you married into the family. You didn't, you're not born into the family.
Right.
So you're going to have a different perspective on this, I think. So, what do you like about being in a family business?
Well, before this, I was in the corporate world, so it was there was no taking Wednesdays off to go to Disney World if it was slow or anything like that. No bringing your kids into the office. So I mean, those are the things that I like. You know, at the end of the day, Brenda's the grandmother. So if we need to have the kids come in the office for 30 minutes while my wife is coming back from the gym, that's pretty cool. But it also gives me like a little bit of a level of comfortability that I can just say what I'm thinking without knowing that I'm going to get,
Canned.
yeah, yeah. And I think it was a little bit troublesome at first.
How so?
Well, because I was kind of thinking outside the box, coming from an outsider's view, and I had this corporate world, mentality and just experience. And I would say, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And Brenda being just kind of
Resistant to change.
Yeah,
that's her profile.
It was tough, but when she realized that I was coming from a point of like I want to help the business grow, then she became much more receptive to it. Didn't always execute on it, but she acknowledged it.
Sometimes it's just being heard.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the billboard out on the road. I mean, that's a 3-year conversation. And
that's common sense.
Yeah, and it's like hopefully that comes to fruition soon. But
I'm a bugger about it. Every 6 months, I'm going to send her an email. Is the billboard up yet? Send me a picture. I want to see it.
I told her when it goes up, I need to get a cut of every lead that comes in from it that we close.
They have a 400-foot frontage on one of the major roads in town, and no signage.
And we need to wrap it with our website and phone number and our logo. And
it's common sense.
She's
resistant to change.
But
you can tell by her picture on the sign out there, which cracks me up. Totally cracks me up. Yeah. You said something that really cracked me up too about about Brenda, that she's the mom.
She's the mother that you never wanted, but you needed. So she's got this way of telling you what to do. That you listen to her and you're like, okay, that's the right move.
It's good advice.
Yeah, but it's also, and when she's in the listings, I mean, she kind of takes over, and that's kind of the personality that comes out. But on top of that, it's just like this layer of financial advising, and she's just savvy in that aspect. So it's a pretty unique combination, I think, when you're going into a listing appointment, and that's the approach that we take now. So she'll go in, for example, and say, why are you selling? You need to stay here. You're not going to find anything. And she almost talks, the client out of selling and talks us out of money. But it was the right move for the client.
In the long term,
right.
She's looking at long term income, not short term income.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And that's where trust comes from.
Mm-hmm. So it's not always what they want to hear, but it's what really is probably the best move. And they'll come back and say, that was probably the best advice I ever got. And we'll get more business off of that, telling people not to sell, because they'll tell their friends to call us. And, so it's a pretty cool aspect that she comes in with. And it's that mother that, you don't want, but you need. So
it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Well, from what I've been able to see, and the direction that this team is going in, is Brenda will eventually back away at some point, and she'll do it gradually, and that you and Austin will take over that leadership roles, and that the two of you complement each other.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Brenda's almost like, I hope she's not listening to this, but she's like the combination of both of us, right? She's like the superhuman, aspect. She's got both of them, the qualities. But yeah, we work really well together. I mean, he's kind of has that more analytical side, and he tells
you have the people skills.
I go out and sell it.
Yeah.
So, and I have the experience and knowledge from them, and I'm not just BSing it, but I can just go out and do it. So.
Any other benefits to a family-run business?
Just, we all understand what's going on in life, and we that's just part of who we are. And so if somebody needs to step out and take care of something, if someone needs to cover for you, there, we just have a big circle that.
And that's both your immediate family that's in the business, and it's also your team here. It feels like a family too. And I've asked them, when you weren't around, did it feel like a family? They said, oh yeah, by all means. What are some drawbacks to a family-run business?
That when we go out of town, we all go out of town. If I want to go, I'm taking my core with me. As far as that's why it's important that they're listers, that I'm taking a big portion of it. So that's sometimes hard because we're like, can we go here? Because that's our busy season. Can we do it? Is that it does carry over into every part of your life. When I'm annoying them, I know it's going home, and Allie will say, I hate that because, she's torn between the allegiance to her husband and the allegiance to her mom, and we're warring, trying to work through whatever our issue is. So that puts other people in the middle of it that you love, which they wouldn't normally be in it. And that's not a big factor overall, but when you're first acclimating to bringing on a new person, it is a new dimension.
Do you find it's difficult when you go home at night not to talk real estate to Ron?
We've been doing it for so long that no.
Good.
I mean, we can totally turn it off. And we have so many other projects going. We own rental properties, and we're redoing a house down at the river right now, and he's focused on that. We're talking about what the pool should look like, So we're talking about other things, and it's not all consuming anymore.
Again, for recommendations, if somebody was looking to grow their business by making it a family or based business, a family-based team, what would you recommend that they should know ahead of time?
Lay the groundwork. Say what the rules are going to be. Look for where the problems are. Ronnie is very detail-oriented and is a totally different mindset than I am. And he's very perfectionist, asking it of himself and everybody around him. And so when he was coming into my work world, it was like, whoa, you cannot critique me. You cannot critique me. But he has brought me to a different level of business status than I was before, because he was used to working in a very corporate environment where you have to cycle numbers, you have to track. He track. And I remember it was like the end of June, I had a killer month, and going, he goes, you're not going to be able to cycle your last July's numbers. And I'm like, excuse me, what? What are you saying? And he's like, you did, I don't know, $400,000 last July, and you're not on track for that right now, or whenever it was. And I was like, what? And I couldn't sleep, because I'm like, what is he talking about? I can't track it. Of course, that's a challenge issued, right? And I did track it.
Of course you did.
I did get it, but I had to say to him, don't ever talk to me like that again. And because I just can't handle the pressure of it, because that's not how I was doing business. And then we were redoing our beach house, and he was staying down there, and all of a sudden I'm calling him going, have you looked at my numbers? How am I doing? Because all of a sudden he had me thinking more in a business environment. He gradually, to where in the beginning I'm saying, don't talk to me like that. And now I'm like, hey, where are my numbers? What am I doing? How am I looking? Are we going to...
Which is a good thing.
Oh, it was great because he gradually brought it in, but we had to know. And we had to have a rule in the beginning that if we ever come to the fork in the road where you think this and I think this, my name's on the sign, it's going to say this. Because I didn't want to get into having a big, hairy argument down the road. I wanted to know that this is how we're setting it up.
Setting boundaries and ground rules from the very beginning is good in relationships. Like, this is tangential, but my boyfriend Rob is our videographer, and he'll tell me, don't talk to me in my business. I have a business tone, you've probably heard. And he doesn't want me to talk to him in that tone, and it's perfectly reasonable request on his part. So you have to set, that's one of our personal boundaries on making communication work, and that's, I would think, be so much more important when you're working full time with everybody. How do you stay in contact with your circle of influence?
We use Fellow.
What and Fellow is what?
It is a
CRM?
no, well, I guess you could call it a CRM, but it's really like, do you know what HomeBot is? We've used HomeBot. They're valuation systems that go to your
okay, got it,
database.
got
Ryan Young developed Fellow recently in the last couple years, and so they're constantly getting those emails from us. And then
And it sends out an email that says that do you want to know what the value of your home is? Click here.
and so
And how is that value determined?
it's an algorithm that
Okay.
he's got set up.
Okay.
And then as soon as they start communicating in it, we're reaching out to them to stay in touch, you know, to because most of your database is going to sell, right? And then we do toffee at Christmas every year, and I'm consistent. And you know, so many agents, and this is what I would say to them, is they try something and then they stop, and then they try
Yep.
something else and then they stop, and then they change their picture and they stop, and then they do another logo and they stop, instead of just realizing that your customer is not giving that all the thought that you're giving it. You're thinking about what I'm doing, but my customer doesn't. They just go, it's Brenda. And so I do the toffee. I do about 3,500 boxes every Christmas. I send to my
You make
customers.
3,500 boxes of toffee?
I have Toffee to Go, which is a local Tampa company, and everybody loves it. And we both started in our business at the same time.
Oh, really?
And they've done very, very well, and I have done very, very well. And we send it out. It's received very well. And I send a personal email. I mean, a personal, not an email, a Christmas card. It's got with it, it's a newsletter. And I talk about maybe what my team is doing, what's going on in my family. This year it'll say, I have another baby. And it's usually very personal. When my dad died, it was very personal, you know, about this is important. And this year it was about, we sold my family's house that my parents had had for over 50 years. So home is gone, you know, and what that means to me. And I'm constantly talking about what's going on in my life, along with what's happening in real estate, because I do, so many of them were with me back from the beginning, and I want them to stay with me.
What brings you joy? That's my favorite question.
You know what that answer is.
Your grandbabies?
Well, my grandbabies. I mean, and my kids. I mean, to see them happy and successful, and just to take a picture and look at those sweet faces. My little kids, they're just, you know, we had a birthday party on the weekend, and you know, this and Reese's 3. He was walking around going, "It's not your birthday," because it was his birthday. It was pony rides and farm animals, and he was just having a blast. And there's just nothing sweeter in life than that. And to be here and to have that opportunity to enjoy it and live close by, and they come and stop in for an hour and then pop on off, and you know, there's nothing greater.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I want to be Jean Shine when I grow up. I always tell Jean, I want to be you, because she does so much in her community, and she's still got her little hand over there on the business and can pop in and everybody knows her.
But her boys are running it quite well.
But she's allowed that. She's let them be successful in their own right. And, you know, I always tell the kids, I'm going to be Jean Shine. I want to be Jean Shine. She's great.
Any final remarks that you'd like to share with our audience?
I just feel so truly blessed that this was the path that I ended up on, you know, because I've been able to invest in real estate. We own, you know, several properties, and it's given me a life beyond my wildest imagination. I'm financially secure, and my kids are coming up, will be the same, right? And I think we've put a lot of good into the world. And I mean, I just pinch myself that I get to come and hang out with people that I love, I truly love. And I travel and meet people like you and the Leslies of the world and the Orleys. I mean, I've met truly outstanding friends. I have Beth Jaworski and Jackie.
She's lovely. I love her.
Jackie Saffron,
They're all great.
Maureen. I have a core group of girls that we travel together that I met through, the various things I've gone on. And Jackie and I laugh because I go, we are very unlikely friends. And because we're very different.
I used to coach Jackie, so we're very different people.
Very different friends, but love her.
Yeah,
love
she's
her.
a wonderful human being.
And Beth, and we're just all so very, very different, but somehow we found a commonality through this business and added a rich layer to life, right? So I'm just so thankful and that people have always been so generous with me, just like you letting me come to Rev. And, just feel like I've lived a very, very rich and blessed life through real estate.
Thank you for taking your time with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you for coming.
I hope you enjoyed this episode with Brenda Wade. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to become a member of our network, America's Top Agents, go to patricklilly.com and all the information is there. Next month, we'll be interviewing Heidi Joy, Tammy Sims, and Melinda Estridge, talking about how challenges can frame your life and show you the road you're supposed to be on and how community can help solve them.